Fixed assets is an integrated module which sits directly within inside of Sage 200. So no need to have your separate Excel spreadsheets anymore trying to maintain your assets and do manual posting of depreciation. So as you'll see, the module sits inside, as you can see on the menu on the left-hand side, and then on our right-hand side, we have a list of all of our assets maintained within the module. So let's show you how we can very easily generate a new asset. Now, the system has the ability to auto-generate an asset number, or of course, you can define your own. So let's generate a car for me today. In the background, I've defined various different categories. So these are completely configurable. And the advantage of that is that it helps you to filter for reporting purposes, select different types of categories of your assets. But also, as you'll see later on, we can then predefine the balance sheet nominal account and the P&L nominal account that these postings are going to go to without you having to reconfigure those every single time you set up a new asset. So when we create this, it'll create a new asset number. Obviously, we've got the name and description, things like the serial number, which in this case of the vehicle could be the registration number, make manufacture number, and then you've got the cost value, depreciation value, accumulated. So what have we depreciated so far? The net book value and the value at disposal. If we come and have a look at my vehicle, you'll see that we've captured all of the associated information around the vehicle registration, as we talked about previously, cost value, net book value. We can capture a subcategory underneath that category. At the moment, this is a live asset, so it's going to allow us to do our depreciation. But as you'll see later on, we've got some very simplistic wizards that allow us to write off the asset, but also to sell the asset as well, and that can create a sales invoice. We can also put this on hold, which prevents us from being able to do any posting of depreciation, and then finally the ability to do a full depreciation. Pretty self-explanatory: date of purchase and capitalization date. Now, I'll come and show you back in a moment the various depreciation types, so your typical straight line, life, reducing balance, none, sum of digits. And then we have the ability to pop in the disposal date. And then when do we want to post the depreciation? Is it periodically, quarterly, yearly? And then our expected life of this particular asset, and if we want any residual value left over at the end of that, and do we want to put an insurance value against that? I mentioned earlier on that the categories define the nominal accounts that this posting of the depreciation is going to go on to. So this is what's pulled through from those categories. But I do also have the ability to split that posting. So let's take the example of where perhaps we've got a monitor in our office. We've got various different departments that use that, and we simply want to split that across those associated nominal accounts, and then we're basically just deciding the percentage of that split. So for those of you who are perhaps using Sage Project Accounting, or of course our projects module, there's also the ability to post that depreciation to a project that's already been set up. And because this sits inside of Sage 200, there is also the ability to associate the purchase ledger invoice, whether that's linking it perhaps to an existing transaction. So as you'll see, all I'm doing here is I'm looking at all of the suppliers on my purchase ledger, and then all we're basically doing is then associating that purchase ledger to this specific asset. I can create a new invoice from here, which, as you'll see, will take me straight into the standard enter purchase invoice, or I could do the other way around. So I could enter my invoice through the purchase ledger, and as you'll see, we've got a little save to fixed asset button at the bottom. That then allows us to either create a new fixed asset or again add it to an existing asset that we've already created. I can also view the transaction details, whether that's drilling down to the transaction inquiry or view the nominal details, obviously, once we've done some postings. Now, I've set this up as an asset that I want to record some additional information on, so that can be defined at the category level. So because this is a vehicle, it then allows me the ability to capture some vehicle registration details. A typical vehicle registration, when it was registered, date of MOT, next service date, And then it gives me the ability to pull off a report to then keep on track with when should we be actually servicing it next. Similarly, I've also got the ability to record some accidents. So when did the accident happen and the description. We can also set up some planned preventative maintenance. Again, pull off a report to keep track of that. So what's the interval of that planned preventative and when's the next scheduled one? And I've also got the ability to attach any documentation. So as you're now starting to see, this isn't just about a kind of a standard asset register doing your depreciation. It's far more than that. It's about having a centralized database to record any information that's associated to that asset specifically. Transaction history is really just a little audit trail that records, as you can see, the date, the description, what it was changed from and what it was changed to. In this instance, it was an amount and who it was changed by, but I can filter that by all of the associated different transaction types. Maintenance, this is where we record who our maintenance company is and similarly who our insurance company is and any reference information. And again, I've got that ability to store that information here. So if we have had some maintenance information servicing, I can record the date and the fault and the cost. And again, I can add an existing invoice or add a new invoice directly from within here. Attachments, again, pretty self-explanatory, whether that's adding a file, a folder, or even a link that we have stored on a central database somewhere. Memo, pretty self-explanatory. And then the forecast is really just about the generate forecast button. It then looks at the period of that asset, the percentage or the type of depreciation amount. And as you can see, it's automatically calculating the depreciation amount and the net book value. And then it captures the posted date and the posted amount of that depreciation all the way down to the end of that period. And in this case, we've got a residual value of 0. Analysis codes, for those of you familiar with standard Sage Top and Pop analysis code, it's exactly the same format. So it's really about giving you that capacity to be able to store your own configurable information and then be able to report on it. So that's an existing asset. But what else can we do? Well, there is the ability to amend a fixed asset as you would expect. So I can come in here and say, which asset do I need to amend? And then all we're doing is exactly that, giving you the ability to perhaps come in here and do those things like recording an accident or planned preventative maintenance, etc. Got some simple wizards that allow me to dispose of an asset, whether that's selling an asset, and all that happens is it picks up in the background the nominal account that we've defined against these assets for the sale. And as you'll see, I can then select all the asset that I then want to sell. And all that's happening is it's giving the ability for us to review the nominal accounts that, as I said, we've defined in the background that it's then going to do the postings through to. And then we simply click dispose. And it then allows us to generate a new sales invoice or find an existing one. In exactly the same scenario, all we're basically doing is doing a write-off. We're popping in the reason, disposing, and it'll then do the journal postings in the background for me. I do have the ability to amend the depreciation type. So in this instance, as I mentioned earlier on, you've got all the different types of depreciation from none, reducing balance, percentage life, monthly percentage life, straight line percentage, straight line life, and sum of digits. So I'm going to choose all of my assets that I've specified as reducing balance. And I have then the ability to say, what do I want to change that to? And what's the rate if necessary, and then just simply process accordingly. I can, again, through a nice simple wizard, do a revaluation of an asset as well. So again, all I'm doing is simply selecting the asset that I want to revalue and saying the reason for that revaluation. It's just simply going to populate the nominal account that it was originally purchased against, and then in the background I've simply set up and defined a nominal account for revaluation purposes. And as I pop in next, I'm going to say what the new cost is, and we can pop in a new accumulated depreciation value and a new net book value, and simply click next, and it will then do the posting for us automatically. We can do a simple view. So if perhaps you have some staff that you want to just simply view and not make any changes, in the similar way that you have roles in any other Sage module, then we can lock the menu down on the left-hand side, which then prevents them from being able to make any changes here. And all they would simply do is view the fixed asset. Now, of course, one of the advantages of our fixed asset register is the depreciation, which means you don't have to do manual postings from your Excel spreadsheets anymore. And all that's happening in the background is it's looking at your open periods in your accounting system manager. So you'll see we've selected the next financial period, which is May. All I'm going to do is click display, and the little red cross just simply highlights to me that we haven't done any postings for this specific month. It won't allow you to do any future postings because we haven't opened up those periods yet. And it literally is as simple as clicking post depreciation, and it will then do the associated postings through to the nominal accounts that we've assigned against each of those categories in the background. Now, there's various options on how that postings happen, whether it's individual postings, each line, or whether it's a consolidated posting. That's something that your consultant can go through in a lot more depth and detail when the system is implemented for you. And as you can see now, we've got the posted depreciation report. All of our reports are produced in the standard Sage report designer. So if you find that there's a report configuration that you need to be adjusted, just speak to your Sage business partner and they can make those amendments accordingly for you. So as we said, standard Sage report designer format, which means I can print, email, export that information or report to Excel if I wanted to. We have a number of different reports that come out of the box. So you'll see we've got the typical list of acquisitions, we've got disposal, depreciation postings, we've got the detail of our assets, whether that's the list view or pulling it off by those categories that I mentioned earlier on, or by serial numbers. We can also pull off a forecast, and we can look at our period reporting. And then finally, you've got your year-end postings as well if you wanted to. And again, as I mentioned, that populates through into the Sage standard accounting periods. Any further information, please refer through to our help and user guides or have a chat with your Sage business partner.